Hey, everybody, welcome back to the real after party. I need something better than that. God, that's stupid. Welcome back, guys. I was gonna just do a full after party on the other one, and I realized that one is just too specific, and I wanted to leave that as it was. So here we are to talk about just random shit, including the nation state of California. Cryptic, thank you so much. Exaggerated story, but let them go and be bankrupt. Yeah. Lots of people were talking to me about that in the chat of the last stream. And so I did. I went and read the story between shows. Gavin Newsom has called California a nation state, and Bloomberg is like, Gavin Newsom declares California a nation state. The state is at odds with the federal government over coronavirus plans and much else. Dun, dun, dun. That's not what it is about. Gavin is kind of a douche, and he says stupid things from time to time. And he occasionally abuses his powers, depending on what. Back when California itself had declared gay marriage illegal, he declared it legal. Gay marriage all happened because of Gavin Newsom. If it wasn't for him, it probably would have happened much, much slower. He's the one that kicked that whole thing off by using powers he didn't have, using powers he did not have. He was going to grant marriage rights to people in the city of San Francisco. And so Bloomberg, being the wonderful news outlet that they are, picked up on him using the word nation state or phrase nation state. However, hang on, I gotta send a text there. My son texted me. Here's what happened. So where is it? Speaking on MSNBC, Governor Newsom said that he would use the bulk purchasing power of California, quote, as a nation state, end quote, to acquire the hospital supplies that the federal government has failed to provide. A couple of things there. The federal government is not the one who's supposed to supply all of this. So he's basically saying he's going to do his job, which is a good thing, I suppose. But because he said nation state, that's got some people all in a flutter. And somebody told me to check out Cal Exit. So I looked up the hashtag, and you know what I noticed? The hashtag is filled with a lot of language I can't read. And I don't mean that in monkey can't read. I mean it's literally other languages. I'm assuming this is some kind of Arabic language. I have no idea what language it is. But here, I'll show you. This is one of them. Get it up on the screen. No, producer. Yeah, I can't read that shit. Let's translate it. What's it say translated? We also hope that U.S. territories regime will be wiped out and that countries like California and Woo will go on a tour. Hashtag CalExit. I don't even know what that means. Countries like California and Woo. What's a Woo, you guys? People saying Iranian, Persian, Arabic. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Doesn't really matter to me, but it seems like a hashtag that's gaining some outside influence to make it actually trend. I don't care about Newsom saying that it's the story at the top. It says California declares independence. No, it didn't. This is the title of the article. The URL is Bloomberg.com opinion articles 2024-9. California declares independent from Trump's coronavirus plan. That's not at all misleading, is it? Oh man. So yeah, that's what's going on in the world today, you guys. California has not declared independence, but Bloomberg really, really wants them to. where was that one part? Hmm. It goes on, nation state export. Newsom is accomplishing a few things here with that, or with what can only be a deliberate lack of subtlety. First and foremost, he's trying to relieve the shortage of personal protective equipment, a crisis the White House has proved incapable of remedying. Not their job. Details are a little fuzzy, but Newsom, according to news reports, has organized multiple suppliers to deliver roughly 200 million masks monthly. Yeah. This is what Trump has been telling them to do. This is what Trump has been saying repeatedly, and then he's gotten a whole bunch of shit for in the media, that states and even all the way down to the local level of hospitals themselves should be acquiring this equipment and not depending on the government, the federal government, for all of it, because the federal government doesn't have that capability. So all that this is really saying is that Newsom is doing what Trump told him to do and trying to pretend that it's Newsom beating his chest. Anybody think maybe Bloomberg has a dog in this fight? He was going to come after Donald Trump, you guys. He was coming after Donald Trump, and Donald Trump made fun of him and called him a midget. I don't think he actually used the word midget. Called him little, didn't he? Little Mike? Mini Mike? Is that what it was? I forget exactly. Made fun of him, and Bloomberg's like, I have more money than you. I will be president. Nobody's voting for me. Why is nobody voting for me? All it takes is money. No, Mikey, so many people forget how long Trump was in the public consciousness before he became president. It's not just that he ran out there and had $1 billion and suddenly became president. Donald Trump has been in pop culture since I was a kid. You can't just show up and throw money at it and be like, I'm president now. Believe it or not, that's not how our system works. You still, for the most part, have to go through the standard step of winning something, Mike, anything. Oh, he did get American Samoa, didn't he? So I don't want to take that away from him. Mini Mike got a tiny little delegate over there. Was Bloomberg the kid from Life cereal commercials? No, if he was, then he would have had something to show that he'd been around. Mikey, give it to Mikey. He'll eat anything. He likes it. By the way, I liked Life cereal as a kid. I haven't tried it in a long time, but it was good when I was a kid. Nice and cinnamony. Biden accuser reacts to Bernie dropping out. Quote, there is no democracy. Oh. I like the picture that they have for this. This is from Breitbart. Breitbart's enjoying this a little too much. She's quite attractive back then. Show her now. She looks like an old handbag. Is this her actual account? Oh, come on, honey. That ain't you right now either. Stop it. Why are you using old pictures? Come on. Anyway, former intern for Leon Panetta, former Senate aide for Biden, survivor, domestic violence advocate, animal rights, actress, writer, poet. Does she have a book coming out? I don't know if she has a book coming out. Anyway, a woman who has accused Joe Biden of sexual assault said that there is no democracy for her after Bernie Sanders dropped out of the presidential race on Wednesday. Quote, many of you that supported different Dem candidates are struggling right now. Tara Reid, who has claimed Biden assaulted her in the early 90s, wrote on Twitter, I will still fight to have my history with Joe Biden known, that he sexually harassed and assaulted me when I was his staffer in 93. You all need to vote for who you wish. For me, there is no democracy. Bitch, you can still vote for anybody else you want to. Bernie's not taking his name off the ballot. You can still vote for him. And when it comes to the presidential election, if you don't want to vote for him or Trump, you can write in something. That's how it works. Thank you, Johnny Hellcat. There's no democracy, only Zool. Only Zool. In late March, Reed detailed the attack on her. This is from the attack account. And then he went down my skirt and then up inside it. And he penetrated me with his fingers, whatever. He was kissing me at the same time, and he was saying something to me. He said several things, and I can't remember everything that he said. I remember a couple of things. I remember his saying first, like as he was doing it, "Do you want to go somewhere else?" And then him saying to me when I pulled away, he got finished doing what he was doing, and how I was pulled back, and he said, "Come on, man, I heard you like me." That phrase stayed with me because I kept thinking that what I might have said. And I can't remember exactly if I said I thought or if I heard. It's like he implied that I had done this. Don't forget that finger wagging at the end with the dirty, wet finger. For me, everything shattered in that moment, she added. He wasn't trying to do anything more, but I looked up at him. He was my father's age. He was this champion of women's rights in my eyes, and I couldn't believe it was happening. In 93? After the Anita Hill thing was already well over, he was a champion of women's rights. I feel like you might have missed a memo, sweetie. Biden's campaign has denied Reed's allegation. Women have a right to tell their story, and reporters have an obligation to rigorously vet those claims. We encourage them to do so because these accusations are false. Kate Bedingfield, deputy campaign manager and communications director, told Fox News. Well, there you go. There's no democracy for old Tara because reasons, because Bernie dropped out, and without Bernie there, she can't vote for anybody else. Are we reading 50 Shades of Grey, says Brian Wilson. It is amazing how many of these accusations come out against very powerful men decades after the supposed attacks that disturbingly sound like something you would read in a 50 Shades of Grey book. Jay Reynolds, thank you. I'm trying hard not to intellectually bitch slap my cousin for saying we made up money and believes that we should erase all debt. Well, I mean, we kind of do make up money, but it's a physical representation of worth, of value. So it depends on, exactly. Maniac Man says, I could write better erotic fiction than this. This is horrible fan fiction. Well, have you read 50 Shades? 50 Shades is horrible fan fiction. My son's supposed to be bringing me Taco Bell. I don't know why that. Jay says he doesn't believe that. There are people out there who believe that, yeah, we can just erase everything and start over. You can, but you'd fuck everybody who had any dime to date. P-Dog says, oh, you really did start back up right away. I said I was going to. I'm on a limited time frame here, so I need to get things done soon. The blame Trump by okay. I'm reading through my Twitter timeline. I got to stop doing that live on the air, or at least stop reading it out loud. It's Good Friday, you guys. We got Easter coming up. Unfortunately, no. 50 Shades of Grey and Taco Bell both made me shit. Now stop it. But we won't be opening by Easter, unfortunately. I know there's a lot of people like, haha, Donald Trump, he wanted to open by Easter and we're not going to be. Yeah, that's a great thing for the country. You fucking shitbags who think that's something to champion. What you're saying is you're really happy that your countrymen are suffering. You're such a good person. And why? To own Donald Trump. Johnny Hellcat, thank you. Don't you remember women weren't equal until after Obama passed the Equal Pay Act in 2009? Yeah, we've never had any equality for women. But no, remember she said she thought Joe was a champion of women in 93. Wasn't it? Clinton was elected in 92. So Clarence Thomas, all of that stuff had already happened. So, I mean, somebody didn't pay attention. The other part of her story that I really love, and I'm sorry, I don't look, if this really happened to her, he should go to prison for it. I just don't believe it really happened to her for several reasons, which we can get into if you'd like. But my favorite part of her story, besides him wagging the dirty finger at her, and yes, I'm adding the dirty part, he might have used one of his clean fingers, is that line, he was old enough to be my dad. Like no woman ever has dated somebody old enough to be their dad. I always love that as a insult against some guy. He's old enough to be my dad. Yeah, but the guy you're fucking is old enough to be your dad too. But he has money. Now, in Joe's case, he had money, but you know what I mean? That's not a valid thing. It's not a valid thing to say, look, he's old enough. Now, if it was a guy saying she's old enough to be my mom, that is a much, much more rare instance. But a woman to be dating somebody who's old enough to be their dad, that happens quite a bit. Quite a bit. Cryptic, thank you. My head feels like it's on an island this Easter. Stop it. Stop. Go sit in the corner. But yeah, that's one of the parts that shows that this couldn't have happened. He was old enough to be my dad. Come on, baby. You sucked an old dick at least once. Come on. Don't lie. In the immortal words of Jack, hate fact. I know, right? It's entirely impossible that a woman would ever go out with a man her dad's age, because that's too old. She might run into a gray pube. I mean, I don't know what they're trying to convey with that. I really don't. Excuse me a minute. Doing a little background worky here. Doing my producer's job because the fucker won't show up for work. Probably because I won't pay him. And I'm being told that the press conference started. Somebody tweeted to me. Yeah, Scribe had already told me in chat there. I'm just curious. This early, I'm imagining there's some big news. Some kind of big news coming out of this thing. If there's not, I'm going to be disappointed. Maybe Trump just wants to get to bed at an early time tonight. Maybe like me, he's playing Animal Crossing and he's got to get to bed so he can lay down and play. Oh my God, my friend P Dog here. How you doing?
Hey, what's up? Sorry, I got the press conference and you in my other ear because I forgot to mute the window. Excuse me. What's happening?
Not too much. Have they announced anything interesting?
No, I'm trying to listen to it, but it sounds like perhaps they just have this one moved up. They don't do them the same time of day every time.
No, but
they mostly
still,
do it 5. What's that?
This is still quite early for them.
Yeah, it is. They did one this early a couple weeks ago too, because I actually streamed during it, and but it was not. That was on a Saturday though, so who knows? Maybe it's getting in early for the weekend. Who knows?
And hello, Scribbles.
Who am I? Why am I here?
You are Scribe Light, and it's because I sent you a link.
Oh, okay.
See, sometimes I can answer that question.
Oh my God, you're brilliant. I'm half listening to Trump right now. He's of course talking about how 60,000 seems to be the number he says that we are either on track to have as of right now or already had as far as like deaths, which is under the estimates of hundreds of thousands and everything else. And of course, the Washington Post just posted a few minutes ago that the global total has come to 100,000, which could be far under the reality. And I'm like, well, could be, might not be, given that China doesn't tell us the truth, and many countries are marking deaths with COVID as having died from COVID. So who knows what the real number is? It could be dramatically more. It could be dramatically less. Who knows?
Yeah, I've seen quite a bit of back and forth on Twitter this morning of people fighting over the death total here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Either way it goes, it's going to be a lot. It can't be just waved away. Look, it's great that it's not 100,000 if it does turn out to be 60,000, but 60,000 is nothing to cheer.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, hi, P-Dog.
Hey, what's up, Squirrels?
Oh, yeah. Have you two met?
Once in a while. It's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean to do that every time that I know people haven't met, or I don't know if they. But you guys have talked before, so
Well, I don't want to be rude. You know,
guys,
like,
oh
hey,
yeah,
how's it going?
Were
say
you
hi.
were you gone when I was on Lords of the Night on Scribe's channel, Monkey? It was just a couple weeks ago. Was it last Friday?
Does Monkey remember just a few days ago?
It was just
I don't
last
fucking know.
Friday. It was a week ago
No,
today.
I was there. Yeah, I was there.
Okay,
Yeah.
just
It was-
all right.
it
That was
was
just
for-
a joke, dog.
It was for the 300 episode, or your pre-birthday episode.
Yeah, your pre-birthday episode.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you sang to me.
Yeah, we sang.
Yep.
to you.
Yep.
You
we
sang to
sang.
me. Yeah, but it's nice if we can get it down under 100,000, because that 100,000 to 240,000 scared the shit out of people.
Yeah, especially when the chart said our goals or whatever, and it's like,
Yeah, goals.
Trump's goal is to kill off 240,000 people. Yeah, that's how to interpret that, you idiots.
And if you look at the other number, because that's the number that got talked about the most. The other number was up to 2.8 million.
Right. If we did absolutely nothing, they said, the model said, if everybody just went about their lives per normal and was outside and running around, everything else, there'd be a whole bunch more. And of course, all those models are guesses and subjective at best. Depends on who you're looking at, who's reporting what, the data that they're getting from different countries about their experiences. And of course, we already know that data is skewed. I mean, China's underreporting for certain, and Italy's been overreporting for certain. So who knows? It's really
I need to
difficult
mute for a
say.
second, gentlemen.
I wish you would more often. Oh wait, no, that was my out loud voice. Anyway, how are you doing, P-Dog?
Hey, I'm doing well. Do I get a lot of arguments about this on the internet though?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just like if you look at the world numbers, it's happening all over the world, and
Yep.
people want to compare us to Taiwan or to Iceland. It's like, hold on, don't compare us to islands.
Yeah.
You know, how about comparing us to the European Union? That's probably a more not just one country in the European Union. Compare us to the European Union, and you see how comparable it is for everyone, and everyone's getting fucked by this. And I think people forget that Donald Trump is not our country.
Well, yeah, and the biggest disservice that everyone is doing, I mean, everybody in control is not assessing things honestly. I mean, like I said, between China being dishonest, between Italy overblowing things, between guidelines that say that if there's an assumption on the basis of the doctor that someone may have COVID, to mark their death as COVID, etc. We don't know how bad or how good it is. And so no one can make an assessment of like the sky is falling or it's just the flu bro, because we don't know. And without more accurate and honest data, we're just going to be out in the woods and hoping that the number of people that come into the hospital that aren't coughing outright goes down, which it probably will with the reduction of the flu season. The regular flu is still out there. It's still causing people to cough and get fevers and everything else. And if there are diagnoses or assessments being made simply on the basis of cough and fever, somebody coming to the hospital, we don't know what the real number is. So we just got to wait it out until we feel more safe, I guess.
Oh, Cult of Krill said it just a little bit ago. Computer models are only as good as the data you put in. And
exactly.
For the record, guys, go look at any disease outbreak, any of them. Almost all of them have this really horrific path. There's one path that's like billions will die. And it turns out, a couple 100,000 get sick and a few thousand die.
Well, they did that with H1N1.
Sure.
They said 2 million people were going to die. And we're like, what?
And that there's a reason they do that. It's the worst case scenario. And those are the ones that get the headlines.
Clicks.
Yeah.
Even
Well,
indeed clicks.
sorry.
Even in this 100 to 240,000. If you watch the fucking briefing when they talked about that, even then they're like, we think this is we think we can get it under this.
No,
This
I
is
mean,
this bad.
sorry. There is to be pragmatic. There is a utility to putting out the worst case scenario and getting people to pay attention,
Right.
because you want to reduce as much as possible and save as many lives as possible, even under something that may not end up being as bad as you say. But if any life is saved as a result of someone being overcautious, that's a life worth saving. Now, the argument is, well, fear versus freedoms and everything else. And I understand that completely. But all the same, if the number ends up being 60,000 rather than 270,000, it's as Pyrrhic a victory as you can get, I suppose, but it's better than the alternative.
Suzanne, thank you so much. Disease models are no better than climate ones. Well, again, everything about it is guesswork. It really is.
Yeah.
And you can make some scientific guesses based on looking at other things, but especially with the disease coming out of China, where we don't know any of the fucking numbers. I'm sorry, guys. We don't know those numbers. Everything we have from them is bullshit. Period. There's no fucking way their numbers are correct.
No.
And using those numbers to model what's going to go on here, it's ridiculous. And like you said, there is utility to worst case scenarios. There is. I think we took it too far. I think we scared the shit out of people.
Yeah.
And now you have an argument of, well, scaring them worked versus you were just wrong.
Well, and that goes back to the old Simpsons clip where like Lisa holds up a rock and says, "See, Dad, this rock, it keeps tigers away." And he's like, "How do you know?" He's like, "Well, you don't see any tigers around here, do you?"
Right.
I mean, like I say, where's the line between in inciting people to have reasonable concern and gross fear mongering? I couldn't say where that line exactly is, because the problem is, like I said, we don't know the actual extent of the threat because everybody's giving suspect numbers. And so without knowing that, the default is play it as safe as possible, since it's all a mystery. And that, gets us to where we are.
Well, and we also don't know the extent of the threat, because if you look at, I have the grid on all the countries here right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're not all the countries doing the same amount of testing either.
Yeah.
We've done almost 2.5 million tests, and we found 400,000 or almost 500,000 people who have the virus, not totally into COVID, not deaths, but it's 7,500 per million. Spain is doing 7,500 tests per million too, but their death rate is far higher. So we don't know, time. Everyone's beginning starts different. Everyone's testing is different, and so you don't know how many cases anybody really has.
No, and the problem is that a lot of the guidance is if the doctor assumes based on symptoms that they may have it, they're to mark it as having it, just to play, quote unquote, play it safe. But that ends up skewing the numbers. And if somebody dies from a heart attack, but they also had COVID-19 at the time, well, then they mark it as a COVID-19 death.
Right.
And so, yeah, even in the absence of testing, it's left up to doctors to assess on their own whim, essentially, whether or not someone should be counted within or without the running total. Right. So it's all. I mean, this virus could be 10 times worse than we think. The only way we'll know, and this is something we won't know probably for a year or more, is okay. And I'm referring back to a good point that Dave Cullen made in a video he recently did. He said, okay, every country every year has a expected number of deaths just by the natural course of life, right? Yep. In the absence of some great catastrophe, every country per year has a relatively stable percentage of people who are going to just die of old age, of disease, etc. Just normal course of business,
right?
So to speak. I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to make light. I'm just saying. And so the only way we'll know if COVID-19 had a out of proportion effect on that is after we see where the totals of registered deaths over the course of the year are by the time we get to the end of the year. Are they substantially larger than normal? Then you could say COVID-19 had an inordinate effect on the number of deaths in, name your country or population this year. If we get to the end of the year and we see that the rate of death was no more or less out of expected range for a year, going historically backwards, only then will we know that COVID-19 wasn't as big of a disaster as we were told. But again, until we get to that point, and even then, the only default safe way to go is to play it like it is a big deal, because why would you want to take the risk? And of course, in that uncertainty and in that fear is the opportunity for, depending on what jurisdiction you're talking about, globally or locally, the opportunity to take advantage of that, take advantage of people, and go for some kind of power play or some kind of exploiting that kind of fear.
Real quick, thank you, Mr. Scott, who says, forgot to ask what P-Dog was the Lord of last time he was on Lords of the Night. Prosecution is what we decided, right?
Jurisprudence.
Well, you said that, but we needed a P word.
Yeah,
that's right. Prosecution.
P word.
Oh, that's right. P word.
Prosecutors.
Okay.
There you go.
I'll write that down so I don't forget.
Yeah.
Right.
If this, I'm all for being safe, taking precautions. That's fine. But I'm one of the people from the beginning, like, we're doing too much here. Is that right? Again, we're never going to be able to tell because we didn't do it the way that I would have done it. The testing kits, 30 to 80% failure rate for correctly identifying. Sleepy Doodle, that depends on where. You brought up the Spain numbers, P-Dog.
Mm-hmm.
There was a number, I want to say it was on April 3rd. May have been it's somewhere around April 3rd. There was a story that came out. Only 30% of their testing was accurate.
Right. From
the U.S. wouldn't
the kits they got from China.
Mm-hmm. It's the test that Donald Trump refused to take from the WHO, even though that's not exactly what happened. They offered this is how we're going to be doing testing, and you can use it if you want. And we went, you know what? No. And so those tests in Spain, where they're about where we are with the same amount of tests, if that number is true, the vast majority of those are worthless.
Right. And their total test is 355,000 to our 2.5 million, but it's per population.
Per population, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the half their tests were worthless in the first place. And that's probably why it could be why, not probably, but it could be why their death rate is far higher. They're like 7 times higher than ours.
Well, here's the other part. I mean, when it comes to death rate, you have to look at the hospital systems.
True.
A fucking Chinese hospital in the middle of nowhere, one of their crappy little ones that they popped up, is not going to be the same as their main hospital in Beijing.
Well, the other thing you have to remember is, and I thought about this at when it first started coming out, about the number of deaths in China they're reporting, at least early on. And I've said this before. I had a friend who years ago went to China to teach English. And she came back with an almost persistent bronchial infection because the air quality in China, in a lot of major parts of China, is terrible, absolutely terrible. And so when you have a disease that most specifically attacks your respiratory system in a country that has horrible air quality, you got to look at other factors than just the virus in and of itself. So first off, you have air quality issues in China. And Italy, even though we know that they're over-reporting, something like 23 to 26% of their population is over 60.
Yeah.
So you've got an even more vulnerable population there, regardless of the air quality. So you got all these factors there that could enhance the number of people who are vulnerable to the severe side effects or death of the disease.
Well, in chat, John Miller said, doesn't China have a lot of smokers? Well, one of the things they found out is this was really hitting old men in China. And old men in China are known for not just smoking, chain smoking.
Just constantly. Yep.
And so, yeah, I mean, that is another thing. You have to look at so many variables.
Yeah, and I mean, you can just imagine how terrible chain smoking is on the body, given that you're trying to light iron on fire all the time.
God damn it.
Well, the other part,
God damn you.
The other part, anywhere where you have to walk and swim at the same time, the air quality is probably not that good.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, the tests they're not the test, the models themselves. Yeah, they look at worst case scenario. You rarely see best case scenario in these, and the best case scenarios never get the attention. You don't see best case scenario, only 20,000 people will die from this. It's always worst case, we're all gonna die. Because that's what gets people to click, and it gets people scared.
Well, I get people to click, get people to actually pay attention and take precautions. I mean, there's always going to be vultures in times like this, obviously, the media, etc. YouTubers, celebrities, and so on. Never let a good crisis go to waste for pushing your brand, pushing your agenda, whatever else. But I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm just cynical enough to say, well, that's just expected. And hopefully on the flip side of it, people will, take that 3 extra precautions a day that might, stem this quicker than it would otherwise go.
Night Ninja says Crowder did a video showing CDC stats for flu deaths and pneumonia deaths are basically 0 for the past 2 months. I'll have to watch it and see, because if that's true, I mean, look, we know they're doing this.
Yeah.
Somebody asked earlier about if somebody had COVID and had a heart attack, are they counting it as heart attack related to COVID? We know at least there was one case that came out that it was a guy had a heart attack. They found out he had COVID after he was dead, and they marked it as a COVID death.
Well, no, the policy is, and again, go look at Dave Cullen's videos on this. The actual policy over in Europe right now is almost the official policy. If you find someone who is infected with COVID, regardless of the cause of death, you mark it as a COVID-related death.
There you go.
And so in that ambiguity of language, COVID-related death just means that COVID was related in the person had it, not that they necessarily died of it.
That reminds me of what's that report somebody they put out, extremist related murders.
Oh yes.
No.
And one of them was the couple that their son died in an accident and they buried him in the backyard, and they called that an extremist related murder because the guy, when he was in prison, was part of a white supremacist group or something like that. It's like, not because it was it wasn't a Klansman, hanging somebody.
Right. Creative use of language has always gotten the media further on a whole bunch of things. We've hit that so many times on the show, just like reading a headline and then actually read the article. It's like, oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah. Nothing as well. What this stream is named after, Newsom claiming that they're calling or declaring California a nation state. No, he said the words.
Yeah, I always like the one where it's like, man arrested for throwing French fry at his wife. Right.
Yes.
And then you read the story. It's like, yeah, the man threw a French fry at his wife, and then stabbed her in the side. And like, well, I mean, you're right, but
pushed her down a flight of stairs was one of those.
Right, yeah, something stupid like that. Like, oh, for God's sakes. This is why everybody got to remember, always read the article. Do not react to the headline if you can.
Yeah, speaking of which, there was one about the police in the Philippines shot a man who was out, not obeying the coronavirus restrictions. But then you get halfway through the article and the guy was shot. He was drunk and he came at police with a knife.
Right.
Yeah. I do have a Streamlabs here. From Mr. Scott. Thank you very much. Would you guys consider doing a special show like on the old news reports I mentioned the other week with the 81 CBS special report What if Omaha was nuked? Maybe you can find a few more old news reports scaring people over the decades. I remember I have that article. You sent that to me. Sure, I could do something like that. There's so many. The news job seems to be to scare you to death, because then you'll watch it.
Well, the problem is, for when it comes to the news, one, I don't know how many people are actually watching, because I've heard so many claims like, no, that's not true. No, that's not true. But it's mostly in headlines.
Yes.
You have people, they'll read the headline. Guys, the clickbait of a title like that is to get you to read the freaking article. And instead, people just go, well, that's what the title said. Like, you're supposed to read it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not innocent of having reacted to headlines before just for the sake of humor. But most of the time I try to actually read the article, unless it's the Washington Post. They don't let me read the article. But I mean, if only our media were in general had a more trustworthy reputation, it wouldn't feel like everything is just being overblown for the sake of fear, when actually there's something serious going on. It's the boy who cried wolf syndrome. It's like, okay, something is actually happening. How bad is it? Well, the media is going to tell us it's the most terrible thing that's ever terrible because Trump's in charge. And therefore the whole world's falling apart, and everything that's done leftwise or sidewise is the worst that's ever been because Trump's in charge. Right. Whereas back in whatever it was, H1N1, it was practically a non-event. Honestly, I wasn't paying attention to the news as pointedly as I am now back then, but I don't remember H1N1 being anywhere near this kind of crisis, emergency, everything else. And it was a similar scenario. And there wasn't like, oh, Obama's the worst president that ever presidented because of the situation. So I understand that there is something going on. People need the information. And for the sake of everyone's health and safety, some precautions need to be undertaken. But I don't trust the media to tell me proportionally how bad it is. And that's almost worse, because then if people stop believing the media when they start telling the truth, like I said, boy who cried wolf. And then this is where we're setting ourselves up for.
This just came across my desk. Deposits of $1,200 stimulus checks will start arriving Wednesday.
If you successfully filed in the last year or so, and if you had direct deposit as part of your, so if those things are true, then you should start receiving stuff. If not, I don't know. So
it'll be a couple weeks as they get you a paper check made.
Right, which then you have to go to the bank to deposit.
No, not necessarily.
Oh, yeah?
There are apps that you can use on your phone to take a picture of your check and it'll instantly go to your account.
Yeah, if I had a smartphone, maybe, but I don't.
So not for you, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not. I'm fingers crossed, knock wood. I'm still currently employed, so it's not as an emergency for me as it is for a lot of other people. And so, like I said, those checks getting out in a timely fashion, the payroll and stimulus to businesses getting out in a timely fashion, that is going to be the first test of whether or not Trump's going to win the next election.
Well, let's see. An estimated 100 million Americans don't have direct deposit. Oops.
Yep.
5 million checks will have to be mailed over 20 weeks. So it could take up to 5 months, 4 months. What is that? 20 weeks? 5 months.
Yeah, thereabouts. Yep.
Mine's going to be very iffy because I had to refile. We had mistakes on my 2018 return.
Wow.
Cryptic, thank you so much. I had to pay, no direct deposit for me.
You had to pay. Oh, right. Yeah. So with my last two returns, for whatever reason, they couldn't direct deposit 2018. And I actually owed for 2019. So if they're only going by the last 2 years, I'll get a paper check. But like I say, it's not as vital in my situation, thankfully.
Yeah, we've been paying in. So I don't think my wife has filled out any direct deposit information. No. She's the one that does it, saying, I have to go give her a black eye for not putting that on there. Just kidding, guys. I would never hit my wife.
You're going to give your wife a black eye?
What?
I EYE.
Oh, okay.
Calm down.
You're going to give your wife a black eye?
Yes.
But what? Wait a second. Okay, it's Amber Heard Monkey over here.
That's $2,400, man.
Oh my God! What are you going to do with all that money? You're going to buy like a whole bunch of like Pepsi.
Pay for my lawyer.
Your lawyer.
You're saying you need a lawyer?
Yeah,
Well,
Pepsi,
if I give
Pepsi
her
and
a black
aerosol
eye, I
cheese.
will.
A monkey's going to be replete with Pepsi, Diet Pepsi, and aerosol cheese.
I'm gonna buy a pallet of ramen.
Blech.
What? Stop it.
Styrofoam food.
It's good for you.
It's
It's good for you. It's how I've lived so long. I should have been dead years ago.
Well, I don't know about that. Stop falling downstairs, and maybe you'll make it past your due date.
Angry says, so does this mean that I got mine on a Jackson Hewitt American Express card the last 2 years? I should get a check. Well, I'm assuming that means you did it through Jackson Hewitt. It depends. I would imagine so, because it didn't go into your account directly.
Maybe. I don't know how that works with the government coming to it, but Jackson Hewitt, man, I went to them briefly for my taxes this year, and I was not impressed. It was a kiosk in a Walmart. I thought it was going to be an office when I went to the address. I was like, what? And it was like this aluminum cardboard kiosk next to the hardware section of the Walmart. And I'm like,
Yep.
Oh no.
They do a lot of business that way.
I assume so. The guy there, nice guy. I was not. I had very little confidence given how scattered he was, so I went somewhere else. But yeah.
Tartan Rose says, what about people on disability? My husband doesn't have to file because he gets disability from the VA.
They are direct depositing those. So if it's like Social Security disability or VA disability, they're direct depositing based on what they do already.
Right. Yeah. If you're receiving government benefits through something like Social Security, then they'll just like add on an extra total to your next check cycle or something like that.
I don't know how to say this, but F. Cole D says, you did your taxes already? We have until July 25th, right? Isn't it June 25th?
July 15th.
July 15th.
Well, yeah, 15th. Sorry, but
yeah, they've extended it already. They might do it again. I heard somewhere, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not April, but yeah, it's June. I thought it was June. I thought they did 2 months, but apparently 3. Fair enough.
Maybe that's the latest extension. I don't know.
Yeah. I've only had instant ramen. I look forward to be able to get proper ramen. You know, people talk about proper ramen. Look. There's no such thing. Ramen is ramen. No, it tastes different, monkey. It's ramen, damn it. Stop it. All you're talking about is when the noodles were made. Stop it. Well, go ahead and go buy some of that proper ramen. I've heard it tastes good. Paying for a tax guy in some cases is not only cheaper, but way better quality of work.
Yeah.
That's true. Absolutely true.
Yeah. I paid a tax guy this year just to make sure everything was square. And it's I mean, depending on what they're doing and how complicated taxes are, it's not cheap, but I'd rather get it right than have them come after me later on down the line for something.
You know, we need to go through this because Suzanne just said, I thought we weren't going to get one, but apparently married filing joint, the top limit is $150,000. No. The married filing joint is $198,000.
Yeah.
So here's what happens. If you made less than $75,000, then you get the full $1,200.
Right.
At $75,000 to $99,000, there's a scale. The more you make, the less you get. And for married people filing joint, it's doubled. So instead of 75 being the cutoff for the full 1,200, it becomes 150,000. And for married filing joint, the top is 198. When you go to places like H&R Block or Jackson Hewitt, they want like $500 off the top of your refund, but a tax guy just takes like $200-$300 right then.
Here's a tip, and again, it depends on how complicated your taxes are. You have to check, but AARP does it for free. You don't even have to be a senior citizen. You find a local AARP chapter, and they have programs. Again, check your local listings, as it were, because it depends place to place. But they do taxes for free, and usually they have people there that know what they're doing. But buyer beware. But check that out. You could get your taxes done without having to pay anything.
Yeah, if you have the ability to do it yourself, you should do it yourself.
Yes.
You
So
save
I,
a lot of money.
here's the thing: do not, and this is coming from personal experience. Unless you have the most straightforward 1040 easy type situation, do not use TurboTax. TurboTax completely fucked me last year because they didn't know what that process didn't know what it was doing, and I got completely screwed over. If you have anything beyond the most basic, go to a person. Go to someone who actually knows what they're doing. Do not use TurboTax. That's my personal advice right there. And not disparaging TurboTax as a company. I'm sure they're fine. My experience was lousy. This is not a mark on Monkey's thing or some kind of libel or anything. Just customer
there's
review.
all kinds of ways you can do it, whether you're going to one of the fast food versions like your H&R Block, or go to just a CPA.
Yeah.
The thing is now too, I mean, now I know you guys probably do a lot more self-employed income, so you might be able to do deductions, but now that they've doubled that, your, self deduction, I mean, I don't even, mine's simple now because I don't do that much income outside of my job. Like I used to do a ton of business when I was doing training for, basketball kids, but I don't do that anymore. So now that they've doubled that, personal deduction, you may not even need to go to them sometimes.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, this is coming within 5 months.
Right.
Yeah. My dad is a CPA, and a lot of his business is correcting stuff that the fast food tax processors do. Well, always double check what they do too. I had friends way back when I worked at McDonald's they used to come to me for their stuff because these were young people with young kids who didn't even know what the EIC was. I thought, oh, you are losing out on so much money.
Yeah.
So much money, thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
But again, those were very simple returns we're talking about. We all worked at McDonald's together.
Guys, I'm sorry. I got to split my work lull, as it were. LULL has stopped, so I got to split. So I'll talk to you later. Nice seeing you, P-Dog.
Hey, nice
Have
to
a
see
good
you
one,
too.
Scribbles.
Yep. Bye, everybody. See you tonight on my channel for Lords of the Night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Fingers crossed, because so far I haven't heard otherwise, with special guest Kate Kennedy, adult film actress. So,
ooh.
yeah, I know.
What the hell's that all about? I'll let Monkey tell me.
Yeah, Monkey's got the story. Bye, guys.
Right. See you, bud. Dragman says, what's the title all about? We'll get to your question in just a second, Doc. The title is just about Bloomberg making a story out of nothing. That's literally what it is. So let's see. Kate Kennedy had put out a feeler on Twitter saying that she was bored and looking to go on podcasts, and Princess Unicorn Nipples brought it to the attention of us, and Scribe's the one who saw it and reached out to her and asked her if she wanted to come on, and apparently she said yes. So she was supposed to be on a couple of days ago on his last day that he hosted, and for whatever reason she couldn't make it. Over on the Streamlabs, where's that at? Thank you, Mr. Scott. Breaking news: Biden cuts hole in mask so he can still sniff people's hair. P.S. Have you fixed your boiler yet? They're supposed to be coming soon. This is the problem with living in the middle of fucking nowhere. Dog, you know how long it took me to get my deck fixed? 4 years. Yeah, our deck.
Why did it take 4 years?
Because every time we had somebody come in to check it out and fix it, they'd be, yeah, we'll get back with you. And then they never would. It took us almost a year to get somebody to look at the well. But because it's still not considered emergency, we keep getting pushed back. So,
that's right. You kind of live in Podunk, Egypt.
I do. So what I need is for it to actually explode, so they'll come out.
But you did get the boiler fixed, right?
No, that's the one I'm talking about. We have the stuff. We're all ready to go. We're just waiting for them. So,
jeez.
Yeah. So unless it actually dies, because we are still in the time. It actually snowed last night, dog. Fucking snowed.
It snowed everywhere from North Dakota to upstate New York. Basically, the entire country it was snowing yesterday. It snowed where I am too.
You know,
I'm like, more proof of global warming.
there's an old Prince song called "Sometimes It Snows in April."
Right.
Like,
Well, he's from Minneapolis.
Doesn't mean is what it used to, man. Thank you, Pincalo. How many of the taxationist theft people do you think are biting their tongues as they apply for this taxpayer refunded stimulus? Well, the good thing for them is they don't have to apply. It just comes. So they don't have to bite their pride. They just get to cash the check.
Just remember to claim it on your state return.
Yeah, right.
Because you will get taxed on that.
Yeah, we'll probably be taxed at the end of the year on it as well. This isn't the same as the Bush one, where the Bush one was actually a prepayment.
Right.
That fucked a lot of people. They thought, oh, just free government money.
Free money.
No. This was you're going to give that back to us at the end of the year. Where I'm at, it's 21 degrees Celsius. Well, that's what you live or get for living somewhere that does that weird Celsius crap. You should live here. I have no state tax. Shut up, Peterbilt. Nobody wants to hear that. Our state tax sucks. Good thing I live in Texas. No, look, none of you people who don't have to pay state taxes, shut up. All of you. Nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah, we may end up retiring in Nevada or Nigeria.
Suzanne says, I didn't think this was supposed to count as income. I'm not sure. Okay, I got to be honest here. I don't know. Typically, these things still do.
They usually do. The rare times they happen.
Yeah, and if nothing else, what they would do is adjust your gross income for it, so you wouldn't pay necessarily a direct tax on this, but it would adjust your tax a little. Something. There's no way they're just giving us free money. I have trouble believing that.
Absolutely will count on your state taxes if you have state income tax.
Yeah,
absolutely. So you got to account for that. And I would be shocked if it didn't count on your federal taxes also. I just don't know why it wouldn't.
Yeah. But anyway, P-Dog, my son brought me Taco Bell.
Oh, okay. Well,
and it's sitting here getting cold on my desk. So guys, I'm going to wrap this one up. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out. Thank you, Cryptic, who says retired in the fuck is that word? Nevada.
No, Niger-Veda.
Niger-Veda.
As in Nigeria. Cryptic did that to me this morning too, because I was explaining that two of my sisters are half Taiwanese. And so Cryptic decides, oh, Blackanese? I'm like, no. They're my mother, my birth mother, and so she's almost 100%. Well, she is 100% Irish. All four of her grandparents immigrated from Ireland. So then he said, "What was it you said, Cryptic? Cockneys or something like that? I don't know. I said Taiwan Irish. They're Taiwan Irish, and he said something like Cockneys or something like that."
But thank you for the donation. Guys, thank you so much for coming and hang out. Thank you for all of the donations. You guys have been amazing, and I really do appreciate it. P-Dog, anything you want to show?
A lot of you know that I have a show called The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. And there's how many people are in here?
189.
189. Okay. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. Here, let me put it in the chat somewhere here. Give me a moment before you sign off. Go right click, subscribe to my channel, and watch a replay sometime. It's fun. My show is fun. It's becoming more fun because I have more stuff that I do. I'll just leave it at that.
All right. Pincalo accidentally timed out Peterbilt. Sorry about that, bud. These things happen sometimes. Damn wrenches. Tonight, as Scribe said, we'll be on his channel, 9 p.m. Eastern time for Lords of the Night. After that, we're supposed to be over on 2 Cents Plus playing some Green Hell. We were supposed to do a test run sometime this afternoon. I still haven't heard about that, but we'll be doing it anyway. So come hang out, guys. Thanks for watching. P-Dog, thanks for joining me. Everybody have a wonderful day. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Subscribe.